All right, so let's do part two of this trip that I went to in the Southwest to Arizona. So I went down to Camp Verde. Just to kind of recap, I went down to Camp Verde on a whim. Uh, spent a few days there. Nothing really spiritually exciting happened there other than I recharged my energetic battery. And then I went to Phoenix, Arizona, and found a place outside of Phoenix to the west with a bunch of mountains. Camped there, made an offering, and started to see a Native American man. Uh, indigenous. Not sure what terms people typically use nowadays, but the is that Navajo that's down there? They might be farther north. I don't remember what group is down there, but he had a single feather in a like a band around his hair, and he was standing on a mountain and just kind of suspiciously watching me. And so I was like, okay, well, this is going to be interesting because I felt his energy and I could feel the energy of this like God protector, land protector energy, God of the land type of energy. And my guide said he was like the protector in that, but it was a trickster energy. It was a very um, don't mess with me type of energy is the best way. I was going to say something else, but because we're on YouTube, I won't use the phrasing. But you know, don't with me type of energy, suspiciously watching me. So I'm making sure to give my offerings. I'm making sure to do my thing. 5 o'clock at night, I leave. I go to there's a Love's about a half hour away that I drive to every night until I get my Divine Council transmission done. If you hadn't watched the first video, I was working on a Divine Council transmission, which is a spiritual reading I do. And that was part of the purpose for the trip, was for me to be able to complete that project. So I was not on the trip for spiritual experience. I wasn't expecting anything. I just went for sunlight and to be able to complete my projects because I needed the sunlight and the energy to do that. So I would leave and I would leave my tent. And before I left, every single time, I'm adamant that when you travel, you make an offering to the land as soon as you show up. When you leave the land, make an offering and ask the spirits to protect your space. And so I would make an offering and be like, please protect my space. Thank you. Here you go. Thank you for letting me stay, this type of thing. And I would go and leave and do my thing. Some days I met a friend. Those of you who know Bailey from Elysion Exchange, I would meet her and we would do some work together. We did those videos that you can find on my YouTube channel about conscious navigation, ETs, all that other stuff. So we would go do that type of work. Then at 5 o'clock, I would be at Love's working on my spirit art. So my camp was in the middle of nowhere, a desolate wasteland of an area. And I don't mean like desolate. It's actually, when people think of the desert, we use these terms like desolate, devoid, people would describe them as devoid of life and um, deadly and full of death and all this other stuff. It's actually full of life. The deserts are some of the most fantastical places I've ever been when it comes to being able to experience the other realms, the other dimensions, beings, fairies. Part of that too is because humans haven't touched it. Um, the woodlands are a perfect place for that too, but the problem on the East Coast is humans have touched everything, destroyed everything, cut mountaintops off, raised forests, and just continue to do that stuff. Out there, a lot of them haven't even seen humans. I've met fairy beings out there who have never seen a human before, and they're like, "Oh, what are you? Who are you doing here? We've only like heard stories of you," type of thing. And so I'm in this area, and you never know leaving your camp now. The area I'm in, because it's a desert, it's the type of desert where the brush doesn't really grow much higher than like knee height for me. So it was 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet high. It doesn't go much taller than that. So if you put a tent, like a big orange tent out there, and it's flat for 20 miles, you can see that tent 10 miles away type of thing. Um, so I'm always asking, like, please protect my space, that sort of thing. Nobody will bother it. And I get the permission, and the spirits will be like, oh, yeah, we'll protect it. We'll keep people away from it. I've never had an issue when I was out there. I had a couple people camping, but they showed up, but very few. One, probably some of the least active areas for humans, other than maybe Utah, that I've gone to. And so I'd come back at night, and as soon as I got out of my car, I would feel him on this man. I don't think I even got a name. I was rereading my notes. I don't think I ever got a name from him. I know I can telepathically connect to him if I wanted to. He told me I could later on, but so maybe I'll try to do that and channel him at some point. But I could feel him suspiciously watching my tent that first night or two. And so the first thing I made sure to do every single time, get out of my car, get some oats, go make an offering. Thank you for protecting my camp. Thank you for leaving everything here, building that trust and that relationship. The first night I was there, coyotes were everywhere. They were howling everywhere on the They were on the mountains. They were on the flatlands, and you could hear them talking back and forth to each other. As they're talking, they're getting closer, type of thing. Now, wildlife does not scare me. Doesn't make me nervous. I don't, people are like, what about cougars? I'm not worried about cougars. I'm not worried about coyotes. I'm not worried about bears. The only thing I'm really kind of nervous about is if I went up into more of the Pacific Northwest area and the wolves. Wolves, I'm really good with things like cougars and stuff, but wolves make me nervous because I've been bitten by dogs and stuff as a kid, so I'm kind of like, I trust most dogs, but I'm also leery of them because of past experiences. So the coyotes don't really bother me, other than I don't want them investigating camp, because if they investigate my camp, chances are they're going to come back when I'm not there and chew through my tent, dig through it, look for stuff, that sort of thing. I don't really have food that's there. I have, actually, I don't even know what I had there, because I ate out most nights when I was near Phoenix. I feel like I just had some bananas, an avocado or something, mango, but no meats, no like processed foods, those types of things that they would really be digging into. And so I make these offerings. I can hear the coyotes at night, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't want them near camp, and I'm camping by my car. So I go, okay, if they get close, I can hit the alarm on my car, and not the alarm, but the lock buttons. And the lock unlock buttons flash the lights and usually scare, if I'm by my car, scares anything off that's around. And I can also use the alarm if I need to. But I can feel him watching, and the coyotes are coming, and I can feel he can like talk to these coyotes and work with them. And so the first night goes by, and they're getting closer, but they kind of leave me alone. It was the second night, I believe, where I'm out there and the coyotes start coming closer. And my guys, I was like, look, am I going to have to worry about these things? Am I going to have to worry about getting up in the middle of the night, use the restroom, walking out? I mean, it gets dark at 5. So if I'm up till 1 a.m., there's a good chunk of time I could walk out of the tent. Am I going to be like, open the tent and there's going to be 5 coyotes sitting there? 1 coyote I'm not really worried about. 5 coyotes, I'm going to be like, that's pack mentality. You got to be careful type of thing. And so my guys are like, no, you don't have to worry about anything. And I'm like, okay, why? And they're like, he likes you now. He knows you're high vibrational, and that you're here, your vibration is going to raise the land, that you're not actually here to create chaos on the land. And to give you an example, days later, as I was hiking, I started finding the things that humans were doing. And let me just say, they are not respectful of that land. There are trash dump sites. There are gunshots constantly throughout the day. And I actually had to be careful hiking. Like, I had to be careful hiking the mountain because there were people they were just shooting into the mountain, and you'd like look up and there'd be a group of people playing target practice, and you'd see like I was walking the mountain and I'm on top of it on the ridges, and there's cans and targets and things up there, but they're shooting from down a mile away. um, so I had to be careful and pay attention to like who was out and about, and that's when I realized like there's a lot of low vibrational stuff going on, and they're not cleaning their trash. I mean, there's trash everywhere. um, but he respected me because I was clean. I would clean trash when I went out. I pick up what I could. I usually take a bag with me, and I don't clean up everything, but I'm like, I'll take a bag out if I can, giving offerings. And so that second night, the coyotes started coming in, and this was the cool thing. The coyotes start coming in, and I'm like, oh god, they're gonna come to this campsite. There's no doubt they are coming to this campsite. Like, they're howling at each other, they're talking, and I can feel them getting closer. And he yells at them. He's like, no, leave him alone. I don't want you near him. And I can feel this trickster god of the land telling the coyotes, no, you stay away from Will. And you can kind of hear them like, oh. And then they start moving away. You can feel the energy moving away back into the mountains and them talking in the mountains. Um, so he kept them away from me, which was fascinating. And it was like immediate. As soon as he said that, that's when the energies moved away. Now, I had one that I don't remember if it was that night or a couple nights later, but it got really close. It was howling and I could feel it, and it really close, meaning I'm not talking like 10 feet from the tent. I'm talking like 500 feet ish. Like, you could hear how close it was. And it's walking towards me. I can feel the energy off the land, and I hear him say, no, stay away from that camp. And I hear the coyote yell, howl back to the mountain where this indigenous trickster god is. And the coyote howls, and you feel the energy of like, but I want to go look, like this um, teenage rebellious energy. And he's like, I told you, leave him alone. And you feel this back and forth because this coyote kept moving, and then he got reprimanded and turned around and left. Um, Now, in indigenous culture, coyotes are related to trickster gods, which I found interesting. That I like met this trickster energy on the land, and then the coyotes showed up at night. I never saw them, never saw signs of them. Hiked around a lot, looked for dens as I was walking around out there. Could not find anything related to them. They stayed away pretty far. I think I might have found tracks a couple times. That was it. And scat. There's scat all over the mountain from them. It doesn't really disappear in the desert. It's almost like it fossilizes. So uh, that was my experience with him. I don't believe there's anything else that came up. I'd have to look at my notes, but oh, that's the other thing. So the before he started telling them to leave, and I can't believe almost forgot to bring this up. Before he started telling them to leave me alone, I was there. That it might have been that first night. There was either the first or second night, one of them. And the timeline of this, I have no idea what it actually is. It could have been over more nights. Time uh, from a linear three-dimensional perspective I'm not the greatest at anymore, which is why I journal these things and try to you know, line them up so when I write or tell people, I can tell them in order. But it's just fading from my mind. But it was before he started talking to them and telling them to leave me be. I was in my tent, and I can see with my third eye. I can see the land. I can feel the land. I can experience the world in another layer of reality than just my physical eyes. Most people see just with their physical eyes. I have like this other. I don't know the best way to explain it to people who don't have it, but it's like I always say it's like a third television. It's not having two eyes, just one screen, but it shows me a different version. And I don't mean it's a different version, it's like a different way of looking at things. So like I'm in my tent, I can feel the coyotes coming. I can see the walls of my tent, but I can see through them with my third eye. I can see through them. I can see my car. I can feel my car. I can feel the land. I can feel where energies are at, and they can kind of show up in my third eye and that sort of thing. So the coyotes start coming to me, and they're getting close, really close, and I'm nervous. And I think I asked my guides for help because I didn't want to have issues with coyotes getting to camp. Like I said before, it wasn't an issue of would I be safe. It was more of I don't want to leave camp and come back and have coyotes having like torn through the tent and done all kinds of stuff. And so I asked my guys, I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, it's okay. You're perfectly fine. You're perfectly safe. You're protected. Don't worry about it. In the moment that I don't remember what I said or what happened, but there was something there where the coyotes were approaching, and I had a thought or I asked a question, and immediately an orb came off over the mountain. It like rose over the mountain, came down. And one night I had actually seen like what looked like an orb ship kind of floating up along the ridges and that sort of thing. And this wasn't the indigenous man either. It wasn't a representation energy. It was actually like either a ship or some type of being flying. I feel like it was a ship. And so the coyotes are getting close, and this orb comes off the mountain and starts getting bigger and bigger. It's getting closer. It gets really, really, really big. And then you just hear the coyote over to my, he was to, why am I going blank on this left, right? He's to my right, to the right of the tent in the distance. And you just hear him like yip and yell because the ship like comes in and like chases after him and then goes and disappears. Came in, chased them off. They took off into the mountains and left me alone. And that was another really interesting thing that happened. And I was outside the one night, and I had seen on the mountain ridge like the little orb kind of moving. And thinking back on it, I had even thought, well, maybe that was a plane or this or that. But where I was at, there wasn't a lot of plane traffic. But that orb, the one night, was I definitely saw that, and it chased the coyote. Like it came in, and it was bright. It was a white blue light. It was like white in the center and blue, like a blue halo around the edges, around the outside that zoomed in to camp and then took off, scared the coyotes away. What else happened with those coyotes? So there was also another event. I don't know if I'm going to share it completely. I'm still trying to remember it. I had a vehicle show up at night. One night I was in my tent, and I woke up, and I don't know what time it was, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. probably. And a car was driving silently down the back road to get to the tent. And remember, this is the desert, so you can see everything. And if a car lights on, you can see it far, far away. So I see the headlights of the car, and I can feel it coming, but I can't hear it. It's perfectly silent. Like it's not. That was the strange thing, is it wasn't making noise on the rocks and stuff. It was just very slow moving, very silent, trying not to be seen or anything. I pulled up right beside my car, pointed the headlights at my tent, and that's when I woke up, like, or was waking up, is when it was pulling in, kind of thing. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, shoot, there's people outside. It's how late is it? There's people outside. So I grab my keys because the first thing I'm gonna do when I'm by my car is set off my car alarm to distract whoever's out there and scare the hell out of them. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, well, first of all, this my intuition connected and my guides connected, and they're like, okay, this is not what you think it is. These are not humans. The car doors open, two people stepped outside. People, from what I remember. And so I'm also trying to feel like what I can say of what I remember, because a lot of it I don't want to talk about yet. So two people come out, and what I remember is having the keys in my hand, being in my sleeping bag and not moving, being very, very, very still, like frozen still, because I have this ability when I wake up. I've trained my body to literally not move a muscle, not even breathe, so that whatever's around me does not perceive me as waking up, so that I can figure out the situation on my own before I make a move. And that helps me with my own fear response, so that when I wake up, if I feel something there, I don't go into a fear reaction. I can kind of figure out the situation and how I'm going to respond to it. And it helps because that fear reaction is not perceived by whoever's around me. So they don't have a reaction that, you know, with ETs especially. ETs, a lot of times, if you have that fear reaction, they'll just put you into a state of, memory loss, or paralyze you, or do different things. And it's not to harm you; it's for your safety. So nobody's harmed in the process of the encounter. And so the best thing I learned to do was freeze when I wake up. So I'm frozen, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And then that's it. That's all I remember. It was like I fell asleep. Like I should not have fallen asleep. There's a car outside. There's lights on. I can see the inside of my tent. There's my keys in my hand. Poof, asleep. They told me I would remember it when I woke up in the morning, and then I would remember it throughout. I would like start getting pieces of memory of it. And that's exactly what happened. I woke up in the morning. I remembered the car, the two people getting out, this foggy haze of somebody else in the vehicle, of something else in the vehicle. And I can kind of remember details of that. And then the encounter that was had. Now, what does this have to do with the Coyotes? Because this video is about the Coyotes and the Trickster god. The crazy thing that it happened is I had this bread. Now, I don't eat bread often. I only eat bread typically when I go on these trips, because it's a very good way for me to get calories and different things, and I need to eat more. I already eat a ton, and it's hard when you have such a high metabolism. Like when you see how skinny I am, my metabolism is ridiculously high, and then when you add hours and hours of hiking, and so I try to eat things like bread and other things I wouldn't normally eat on a daily basis to get more energy for my physical body. So I had this bag of bread, and I swear to God, I know where it was sitting. Like it was in my tent beside my pillow when I had left. Now, stupid of me to leave it there, obviously, and it just in a place it shouldn't have been. But it was there, and I'm like, I swear that's where it was. The morning after that event happened, I'm outside of my tent, and I'm looking around, and that bread is in the distance, smashed against a little bush. there's no bread in it, and there is a hole chewed by a dog, and the bag's there. And I go and I like spirit pulled me to it too. I didn't notice it. I was just like, spirit, just like, look over there. And I'm like, what the hell? How did that get out here? First of all, I didn't think it was my bag. I walked up to it and I went, how did that get out of here? And I picked it up and I'm like, wait, that's my bread bag. And I go into my tent, and sure enough, my bread isn't in the tent. It is not there. It's gone. The only thing I can think of from that night is that I opened the tent and I stepped outside. And from the memory of this experience, I opened the tent and I do not remember closing the tent. And then I had this experience with these people and these beings. And all I can figure out is a coyote came, went in my tent, grabbed the bread, went out, and devoured it out in the distance. I don't know if that's what happened. It's possible that I opened a car door, I was putting it somewhere, and it dropped and fell, and I forgot that it was in there, but I swear it was in my tent when I had seen it last. And so I had this experience with these beings, and the memories started coming back. But the coyotes, that was the only time I had an issue, is that they got my bread. And it was definitely a dog. There wasn't much else out there. There were some wild steer and cattle and stuff. And obviously they don't eat that stuff. And they also have very big mouths. So I could tell it was a dog that got it. And yeah, so that was the coyotes and the trickster god. He was very nice. But the whole time the god kind of just watched me. He didn't really interact. He didn't talk to me much. He just watched. He's very suspicious and cautious, and left it be. But for the most part, kept everything away from me once I had built the trust. Once I built the trust with him, he was like, don't worry about it. Camp's protected. I will watch it for you, type of energy. So that was a beautiful thing. And that's why I recommend anybody who does this work, always always make offerings, always build relationships with the land. They will protect you and experiences will come. So next I'll either talk about dragons or unicorns. I'm not sure what will come to mind. I'll probably film it tomorrow, and whatever comes to mind will come. But there's a lot more experience. This was just the coyotes part, it was just interesting. It was interesting to see, like, UFO chased them off. You know, beings showed up in the middle of the night, and I went out in my tent, don't really remember the whole thing, and somehow a coyote got my bread, and all this other stuff. So thank you again for watching. If you enjoy these videos, I know these aren't the most exciting for these initial two, because they're not unicorns, they're not dragons, they're just coyotes and gods and some basics. But if you're enjoying these videos, please consider supporting me with spirit art readings, divine counsel transmissions. We even have Adopt a Spirit now, which I'll go into more detail with when I talk about the dragons. Thank you again. Grateful for each and every one of you, and I love you all.